Pourriez-vous me dire où est la gare?
No, don't understand, sorry. Only English, sorry.
In Birmingham, a Frenchman struggles to be understood.
Bonjour.
A few miles away, an English businessman is bamboozled by a French customer. At schools all over the country, the dramatic fall in the number of students sitting language GCSEs and A-levels continues at a pace.
Since modern languages was made optional at Key Stage 4, we've seen the numbers almost in free fall. And there are a large number of schools where actually very few people are studying modern languages beyond the age of 14.
Bonjour. Bonjour.
Yet the government says there's no crisis facing the teaching of modern foreign languages. They've done away with compulsion, but are still committed to MFL.
There is a clear entitlement at Key Stage 4 for young people to be able to study a modern foreign language, and I'm determined that that is a real entitlement and that schools organise themselves in order to make sure that that's open for every young person.
Sorry, call out for me.
To help reach this goal, the government's declared that all primary children will have language lessons. But are the teachers ready?
I must admit, when it was first mooted, I was quite worried and scared.
In this edition of School Matters, we ask whether this new strategy will work, or is it too little, too late?
Je cherche la gare. Only English.
Beneath Junction 2 of the M5 in Oldbury, there's a company that's learned a costly lesson about the failings of language learning in schools. This firm supply classic car parts. If you want a door handle for your Inspector Morse Jaguar, then they'll supply it. Their export market is crucial. Over half their components are sold abroad.
Any child that goes to school has got to get a job. You just have to have something that earns you a living. And if you can speak a language, as several of my guys can, what a big help that is, what a big plus that is.
So, did David Manners recruit a local linguist to deal with his French customers? Well, no, he couldn't find one, so he hired a French-Canadian called Claude.
Well, I think the French like to explain themselves in French, obviously, and it's quite hard for them on the phone. So to speak to me, they can feel very comfortable, and less mistake can be made.
It's vital. Anybody that wants to be in business nowadays wants to sell all around the world. And it's stupid to think that everybody speaks English. They don't. We are lucky that ours is one of the biggest languages out there, but no, that's not it. We've got to go for getting all new markets we can. My market in France, which was 250,000 4 years ago, is now 850,000 because at least 4 of us speak French. And we speak motorcar French, which is different to ordinary French. We also speak German, Italian, and a bit of Spanish.
Esperemos que vamos a recibir la semana que viene.
La semana que viene?
Sí.
The Spanish speaker is Andy, but his very commendable command of car parts Spanish wasn't learnt at school. He attended an adult education course.
That was Maribel in Madrid. They're a big Rolls-Royce and Jaguar independent specialist. They just rang on the off chance, and I suppose luckily I picked up the phone because you can't speak a word of English apart from hello Andy, basically.
One of the problems that employers have with language skills is they cannot find local people with the necessary skills, and as a result end up employing overseas staff.
Henrietta Harnish from Black Country Pathfinder makes videos promoting language learning for teenagers, which highlight the chronic shortage of linguists.
And a couple of weeks ago I went to a company in Warsaw, an international freight forwarding company, and the MD was telling me that he had to employ 2 French native speakers for his operations staff simply because he couldn't get local people with the necessary language skills.
We're operating in a globalised economy these days where companies are not just buying and selling with companies down the road or in a different part of the UK. Increasingly, they're doing it within Europe and wider than Europe into new economies such as the subcontinent in Asia, in China, in South America. And languages is absolutely core to the success of the UK economy in the future.
And only a couple of days ago, we've heard that Amazon is relocating from the southeast of England to Ireland explicitly for that same reason. They cannot get the language skills in England.
Guten Tag, wir heißen Charlie und Sam.
There is exciting work going on, like this German class where Teutonic plasticine crocodiles are brought to life Wallace and Gromit style. A fun class that gives hope to the future of primary language learning, but doesn't help solve the current crisis facing the secondary level.
You're now subject to the regulations of the examination. You're forbidden to communicate anyway with...
Over recent years, business has been pretty concerned about the drop-off in the number of students taking foreign languages, both at GCSE and A-levels, and then the impact on the number of graduates taking languages as well. Those numbers have fallen in GCSE, but also most alarmingly amongst A-level students.
In reaction to this alarm, Education Minister Jackie Smith released a little publicised but highly significant statement.
I wanted to send a clear message that, you know, saying it's not compulsory does not mean that I didn't expect there to be significant numbers of young people who are still having that opportunity. And that was, I think, the clear message and the suggestion that, you know, really we ought to be seeing at least 50% in every school of 14 to 16-year-olds following a languages course as the norm. You know, that was an important message that I think needed to be sent.
The government's announcement on encouraging more students to take modern foreign languages is hugely welcome, and we think is in large part a reaction to what business is asking for.
The Minister's announcement of voluntary targets for schools was very welcome. I think that was the right way to go about it. But the fact is we're in a very deeply worrying situation, and this announcement of itself will not get us out of that.
Il y a en France environ 55 millions de Français.
Teaching staff gave Jackie Smith's statement, which some saw as a backtrack, a cautious welcome.
Very encouraged to receive Jackie Smith's letter that actually was sent to all the secondary heads that said we expect you to retain 50% of your students, at least taking some qualification, some formal programme in terms of Key Stage 4. I think it's a shame that that didn't happen earlier. I think it's a shame that didn't happen earlier because I think schools made a decision they didn't need their languages teams. They wouldn't allocate that sort of time. So, and unfortunately, the sort of juggernaut of planning a year starts very early nowadays in schools. So a letter coming early in the spring is probably not early enough to stop some of the changes that we're going to see in September.
While the government formulates and redrafts a language policy, we lag further and further behind our continental neighbours. Most countries are well advanced in meeting a European directive calling on all children to learn 2 languages other than their mother tongue.
We used to have a young fella here and he said, look, we're selling parts for Jaguars in France. Everybody that drives a Jaguar can speak English. Of course they can't. Loads of us drive wonderful French cars. We don't speak French, for goodness sake. So yes, it's an arrogance, it's a stupidity, and we've got to get over it.
I think it's a cultural arrogance to assume that the whole world speaks English. And, you know, if we speak English, we can do business everywhere. And of course you can do business in most places of the world, but, you know, you try and do a credit control chase in France, and then we suddenly don't all speak English.
To put this cultural arrogance theory to the test, we went to Britain's second city, Birmingham, which happens to be twinned with Lyon, and asked a Frenchman, Simbad Ixel, to find his way to the railway station in half an hour, speaking only French.
Bonjour madame. Madame, pardon, je cherche la gare. Pourriez-vous me donner le chemin de la gare?
Very sorry, I don't understand that language. Very sorry.
Bonsoir, est-ce que vous parlez français? Non. Je cherche la gare. Vous pouvez pas m'aider?
Train! Tuk-tuk train! À droite.
Oui.
I'm stuck now. I can't think of anything else to say.
You go round that corner and up some steps.
Oui. New street station.
Montre-moi.
There.
It's difficult, I can't explain, it's difficult. If you're going towards the city centre and ask somebody, they'll be able to help you.
À gauche. Et à gauche.
Gauche, c'est là, la gauche.
Non, over there.
Bonjour monsieur, parlez-vous français?
No, sorry, I don't.
Vous parlez français, n'est-ce pas?
Non.
Un petit peu.
Non.
Comme tout le monde.
I don't know. Garage.
La gare. La New Street, la gare de New Street.
Oh, okay.
Only speak English.
Oui.
Pouvez-vous me montrer?
There. Left.
Straight ahead of you. So straight ahead.
Vous parlez français un peu, vous pourriez me...
Non français.
Non?
Non français.
We'll return to the adventures of Sinbad at the end of the programme, but cultural arrogance aside, many believe the slump in language exam taking has a good deal more to do with league tables.
Schools are always looking to get the maximum number of youngsters with 5 grade A to C passes, because that's the benchmark performance indicator that the government has set for schools. Then inevitably a hard subject like modern languages, schools are not going to be enthusiastic about putting people in. It's not going to do their statistics any good.
I'm not in the business of, you know, encouraging through performance tables or in any other way schools and pupils to back off things that are tough, because quite often those are the things that are the most rewarding as well, and certainly I think language study can be.
Young people find languages hard. Well, my answer to that is, yeah, good. You know, there's nothing wrong with being hard.
Qu'est-ce que c'est? Oui. Alicia.
Une tattoo.
It's when we do things that are hard and difficult and require us really to pit ourselves against something and take up a challenge that we really do succeed.
The best way to learn a modern language is not to give people 1 hour twice a week over a 2-year period. Much better to have deep immersion into the language. If you or I were learning a language, that's the way we'd go about it. We'd buy a tape, we'd get some sort of course, and we'd really go into it for a short period of time.
Qu'est-ce que c'est?
So I think we do need to look beyond the GCSE courses to other ways in which modern languages can be experienced by youngsters.
One of the important things that we are doing, though, to support schools is, you know, we've asked the Qualifications and Curriculum Authority, and they have, to issue guidance that outlines for schools the whole range of different courses that you could do at Key Stage 4 between 14 and 16 that would give young people the opportunity to study a language, that would also give you, that could be reported in your performance tables as well, so for which the school would get credit. That seems to me to be a sensible way forward. New and different sorts of courses, providing opportunities for young people and enabled to be reported in the tables as well.
But the big challenge lies with the government's primary language strategy. At the moment, less than half of all primary schools teach a foreign language. By 2010, the government wants to see all the 2.25 million Key Stage 2 children getting an hour's language teaching every week. At Hampton Hill Junior School in Richmond, teacher Pete Hardwick certainly finds it a challenge.
Well, my language background is quite limited. So way back in school days, I did French to sort of O-level standard, but never a superstar at it. And since then, I've done little in terms of developing my language skills there. I've been to France a couple of times, but I'm not a natural.
Bonsoir, madame.
Good. I must admit, when it was first mooted, I was quite worried and scared.
So pick up a card if you think you need it. See who you can find. Ask questions. Talk to each other.
I should think there's other teachers in the same boat as me that have learnt French at some stage and are probably worried that it's not going to be enough. I must admit that if I had to teach Year 6, I would be more concerned.
Bonjour la classe.
Bonjour, madame.
Someone who is teaching Year 6 MFL is Kirsty Tonks. She's taking part in a pioneering scheme introducing languages to primary schools.
Très bon.
Until very recently, there was no languages provision at Crockett's Lane School, and Kirsty was very anxious about taking it on.
Oui.
But a link-up with a nearby language college has removed that fear. The computer team here at Shireland Language College produce high-tech lesson plans and games linked to a team teaching initiative.
A number of our staff teach primary languages with primary teachers in the classrooms all the way through from nursery up to Year 6. So we've taken the whole Key Stage 2 strategy, cut it up into the sort of themes that the children will need to experience as they go through Key Stage 2 in languages, and then developed a whole bag of resources that teachers can use.
I like wearing when.
Mike Rao from Shireland works with the Year 6 class.
J'aime, good. J'aime porter.
On a Friday morning, Mike comes down, so we kind of team teach a lesson together, so Mike's prepared it.
Quand. Très bien.
He does a lot of modelling and demonstrating, especially with pronunciation. I mean, for example, at the moment we're doing French, which is fine because that's what I learnt at school. But, for example, when it's Mandarin, it's a little bit harder. So Mike also has people that come in, that also come in to support, that are probably from the country of origin, that help actually deliver the lesson, and so we can get really fluent and correct pronunciation with the languages.
But a lot of teachers are alarmed at the fact that they've got to deliver yet another initiative in the classroom, especially when it's in another language. But I'm hoping that the materials we produce help to allay those kind of fears. And once they see the materials in action, they start to realise that, yes, they can do it as well.
Oh, it's been absolutely fantastic. I mean, the kids love it. They're actually engaged in learning. And I think one of the things that has actually arisen is some of the children who are actually exceeding the objectives aren't necessarily the people that you would expect to, your normal high flyers.
And then the clothing, con, and then the weather. OK, 2 minutes, off he goes.
They're all starting from the same position, but all of them are involved, all of them are engaged, and all of them are actually learning new languages.
Not only are we working with the students, but we're also working with the staff. So they're getting training on the spot, in the class, with their children. It's completely contextualised, and they want to be part of it.
If you feel that you have actually learned the French for the clothes, I want you to put thumbs up.
But critics say schemes like this are few and far between and argue that the vast majority of teachers will be left struggling to meet yet another target. We canvass views from this group of teachers enjoying a quiet drink. So are they worried by the extra language work?
I think it's very alarming to suddenly be asked to do something like this. And of course, you do have to have some subject knowledge to be able to go into a classroom and teach this effectively. You know, it's not something that you can pick up straight away. It does require a lot of encouragement, and you do need training to go in and teach French at any level.
I think we're very lucky as a primary school because we've been linked with the language college, but I think any other primary school that hasn't is just going to have to basically tread water, if you like.
They're pushing it at primary level, but there's no extra budget for that. That's what I think.
They're going to have to struggle along without any resources or very few resources. They may have teachers who don't speak any modern foreign languages and are just expected to carry on.
In terms of they've got to now allow all that extra hours training for every single member of staff for them to implement that for primary level.
My real concern at the moment is there are a lot of students who are dropping out at 14 plus and less students going on to do A-level and less students going to university.
If teachers are set in their ways, then they will not want to take on board new things that they're frightened of, because sometimes if they didn't do well at school in doing a language when they were younger, they might think, oh, no, I can't do French, and freeze.
One of the reasons why we're making it a relatively long-term job, that we're saying, you know, we want that entitlement by the end of this decade, is because we also understand there is a job to be done, training up teachers, putting in place the framework of learning, which of course we published last year for Key Stage 2 to give the sort of techniques, the way in which language learning can be brought into primary schools. But we're serious about putting money into ensuring that infrastructure's there. You know, 900 people this year, for example, going through initial teacher training for primary language learning. About 6,000 by the time we get to 2010 who'll have had that opportunity.
Bonjour. Bonjour.
But are secondary schools ready for a big influx of young linguists? Earls High School in Halesowen, and a group of Year 5 children get their first glimpse of life in a secondary school. They're taking part in a unique language learning experiment called Project Croissant.
Enlevez vos manteaux, s'il vous plaît. Enlevez vos manteaux. Excellent, super. Okay, right, today then, you've worked really, really hard on making your puppets, you've worked really hard on your scripts. What we're going to do today is actually practice those and put it all together. So your mentors and your leaders will help you with all your pronunciation. Away you go, allez-y.
Oui, à la rage, un sandwich, un fromage.
This after-school activity aims to make language learning fun, with the Year 9 and 10 students from Earls mentoring the younger ones.
I think the children are getting
two different aspects out of this. First of all, they're obviously getting exposure to French, the year 5s, and we're hoping that it will actually enthuse them to learn when they come to secondary school. With the year 9s and 10s, it's actually revisiting language that they've used, and so reinforcing those linguistic skills, and they're then developing, and we've noticed, more confidence in class and being able to answer and speak out better.
It's been really good, actually. All the kids are really nice, and going over things that I've already learned, you know, it helps me understand them more.
I think it's like really fun because like we learn a new skill from it, and it'll help us for when we come to the Earls or Windsor or wherever, and it'll be easy for us to learn the language.
Did you know much French?
No, none.
It said it would be fun for the children, but I didn't know how they could make French fun. But it's been really good.
It's good because it's quite fun, and you learn a new language to help you when you have to like learn French in secondary school and when you go to France also.
It will help me when I come to Wales, and because I go to France quite a lot, it will help me more because I only knew about 5 words when I first went.
I'm doing my GCSEs at the moment. It has helped me remember the basic French.
I think that they really do benefit because, you know, it prepares them for the transition between primary and secondary, and, you know, it makes them want to learn if it's fun.
Well, obviously the transition between Key Stage 2 and Key Stage 3 is going to be quite crucial for the effective teaching of modern languages, and I think that this will actually help to improve that transition and perhaps make it run more smoothly.
But it's far from smooth elsewhere. Research carried out at Bristol University showed that primary children arriving at secondary school with language skills were often viewed as a problem.
Students who'd done, in some cases, 4 or more years of primary French, and it was French I was looking at the time, were being forced to start again from scratch. That was the expression that was used in every school that I looked at.
Well, that's a good example, isn't it, of why we really do need a sort of culture shift, which we're beginning to see anyway, to a more personalised approach to what 11-year-olds can and can't do, not just in modern foreign languages, but more broadly.
If there's no continuity at secondary, they're not going to be able to make more progress. In fact, what might happen is that if they're forced to start again, and I know that that is happening in quite a lot of schools, that their prior knowledge is being ignored, then they're going to be disillusioned, they're going to lose their motivation.
The idea of Key Stage 3 is not to create uniformity of achievement amongst children. It is to build on what they've achieved in their primary schools. It's to catch up on what they haven't been able to achieve in their primary schools. And we need that really personalised approach to learning at Key Stage 3 in order to do that.
I came away with this phrase ringing in my head. 1 year 8 boys saying, well, we might as well have spent the time doing extra maths and English.
There's work already underway, and I think it's a reasonable challenge that as we develop more primary skills, we'll need to think even more carefully about what then happens in the early years of secondary.
Clearly, successfully welding the primary and secondary experience of MFL is going to be quite a challenge. But business and industry say there's a more pressing need now to make language learning useful and vocational.
I used to learn to play the drums. And if I'd have learnt the Buddy Rich School of Drumming, I would have got to the 13th week before I'd have learnt anything that I could show my friends. But on the 13th, on the very first lesson, my drummer taught me the time beat, that tick, 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 tick. Therefore, I could show all my friends what I could do. Now, French and languages are the same. Teach the people what they want. Then, if they want to go into the academia of it, then teach them the other way. But it's spoken French and understanding French that's more important than anything, to my mind.
I think if all we do is worry about whether young people can know the word for widget in French, German or Spanish, then we're offering an entirely diminished view of what language teaching and learning is all about. Languages can offer a real intellectual content. They can be the cultural window on the world for young people, and that really is essentially what we should be aspiring to for them, and that they should be aspiring to for themselves.
I suspect we've probably got more people who would need to know what a widget is in Spanish or German, or would want to, than would want to read classical literature in different languages.
In this industry,
the language is very specialised, so you need to know the technical terms or the car parts. But I have a special dictionary in here, and it has all the parts in French, Spanish, German and Italian. Everything from engine down to things like ignition switch, lights. See in French, for example, chaque auto is un moteur. In Espanol, it's un moticuador.
I have a son who's currently doing A-level French. Very, very disillusioned. Thought he was actually going to learn, decided to learn French because he wanted to use it next door to design. Is now hugely disillusioned by an A-level French course that he feels is ethereally academic.
I think if you reduce the idea of learning a foreign language simply to the idea that there's a functional set of skills that can be applied in a job, then you're actually diminishing what the potential of languages really are for the individual and for society, I'd say, in general.
Unfortunately, I don't agree. Long live the French and German widget definitions, because I think that'll be much better for our children.
Back in Birmingham, time is running out for Sinbad, our Frenchman, trying to navigate his way to the railway station using only his mother tongue. But his luck's about to change.
Est-ce que vous pourriez m'indiquer le chemin de la gare, s'il vous plaît?
Gare.
La gare.
Oh. Continuez tout droit.
Oui.
Après 500 mètres.
Oui.
Tournez à droite.
Oui.
Oui, c'est pas loin. C'est pas loin d'ici.
Merci. Mais c'est formidable. Vous n'êtes pas anglaise?
Oui.
Vous êtes anglaise?
Oui.
Alors là, félicitations. Hein.
Merci beaucoup. Au revoir.
Au revoir. Je suis mieux.
Success, but it was all too late. Sinbad's ill-fated voyage ended in miserable failure. He simply missed his train, but the consequences for all of us if we fail to get to grips with language learning could be far more serious.
We'll see a decline in the competitiveness of British business if we don't take languages more seriously.
The country as a whole is going to be in serious economic difficulty as a result of our poor performance in business, because we simply can't talk the language when we're doing business in other countries. And it's just no good relying on other people talking English all the time.
I think we have got the balance right. You know, many people have argued that what we need is more flexibility in the national curriculum. I accept that argument, but I want every young person, whatever their background, whatever the school that they go to have a real opportunity to carry on studying foreign languages at Key Stage 4, and that's what I'm determined to see happen.